Cool, cool. I love the backdrop.
Oh, thank you. It was not intentional. I had it set for my last thing, and I when I turned it, I was like, where did that come from? But yeah.
No, it's great. Yeah, I use Zoom like only for this, and I think this is like my fourth or fifth one. So like I don't know how it works at all. So I'm like, oh, blank wall. And the
Yep.
last guy I interviewed was like had a bunch of like cool LED lights behind him, had like his nice professional camera setup. I'm like, oh, I'm such a scrub. Like, what are we doing here?
What little backgrounds are for.
Okay, cool. So first off, would you like to introduce yourself? Just for
Yeah, sure. So I am Anna Maria Cobb. I am a film photographer, a relatively new one. I've only been shooting film for about a year now, almost exactly. But I started shooting and haven't looked back. So that's where we are today.
oh, that's kind of beautiful because I think I started shooting film about how old am I? About 4 years ago, like today, or not today, but this month at least, because of my birthday. I like bought my Mamiya C330 for myself. I was like, this is it. And yeah, it's just been a huge drain on my bank account ever since. So
I feel that.
yeah, it's only getting better too, you know. Um,
Mhm.
but okay, so what got you into film? Were you like into photography beforehand and then just kind of evolved into film, or what's the story there?
Yeah, so I have been quite enthusiastic about photography for a long time. I think I started really getting into it when I was around 11 or 12. And by that I mean I picked up my mom's point and shoot and would go around and take walks every day and like take pictures of flowers.
Mhm.
Um, but I really, really enjoyed it and it became my main hobby. And I'm the type of person that it's really hard for me to stick to hobbies. I'll get into them like full force for 2 weeks and then never again.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
photography is the only thing I've ever really stuck with. And so I guess it's been around 10 years now of shooting. And I like prior to getting into film, I had a small little business doing like portraiture, senior photos, some weddings, things like that. Um, but I really started to get burned out after a while off of digital photography. I just started feeling like it wasn't very fun anymore. It felt more like a responsibility, like especially with my business. And my camera started to feel like a tool instead of like an artistic medium.
Mhm.
Um, I just wasn't having so much fun anymore. So I had some friends that shot film, and I was always kind of curious about their cameras, mostly just how they looked. Like they just look super cool.
Mhm.
Um, but what really got me into it, and it sounds kind of like a dramatic backstory. I guess it is a little bit, but I was working for my family's business. We have a furniture company. And last October, our factory actually burned down.
Oh, geez.
And so, yeah.
Oof.
And so I was kind of put out by that for a while. I was a little bit blue. And I decided I needed to pick up a new hobby to just sort of bring some joy back into my life. So I went and bought a film camera. And that's kind of how I guess, processed my emotions in that time was just going out by myself, taking walks,
Mhm.
shooting. And but I absolutely fell in love with it. And yeah, I've just been going at that ever since.
Interesting. What was the first camera you bought then?
So the the first camera I bought, of course, you look and you're like, best film camera for beginners was the
Yeah.
Canon 81. And I bought it and I hated it. I like the light meter on it didn't work.
Ooh.
And so it was just, I wasn't having a good time with it. So I actually returned it like a week later and I got a Pentax K1000. And I liked that better. I
Oh,
liked
yeah.
that a lot better, but the light meter on that also did not work. And so I got an external light meter, but the one that I count as like my actual first camera that I really, really enjoyed shooting with, and that it's the one that I still shoot with a lot, is the Pentax ME Super. I love that one.
Big
So,
fan. Big fan.
mm,
Yeah, that's one of the I'm very familiar with working on is the ME Super. Huge fan of that. I actually have one torn apart right there. Big fan of the K1000. That was the first 35 millimeter I started with, but the light meters are kind of finicky with them because
Mhm.
the solder contact on the bottom usually becomes detached because they're super old and whatnot. And then I love AE1s, but like, I don't know. I like working on them, I think, more than I like shooting with them, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I don't know. It didn't click for me for some reason. I love the ME Super because I have like, I guess, smaller hands. And so it
Hmm.
just fits nicely. It's super light, compact, easy to shoot with. Like, I
Have
really like the metering system in it.
Oh
I
yeah.
have no complaints.
Yeah. Have you seen the 40 millimeter pancake lens that's on those?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it so much. I had that and I took the my MX and that to Europe like earlier this year. And it was like the perfect little travel kit because it was like that big.
Yeah,
And I
it's
have big
tiny.
hands, but it's still like super easy to hold on to. And yeah, I enjoy that quite a bit. So
Yeah.
cool. Okay. I had another thought to that. At one point in time, you put something on your story where you were like milking goats. Can you please explain that? Because I was very confused. I was like,
So,
that's the whole reason I want to have this conversation, just so I could clarify that.
yeah. Okay. So, um, over the summer, I had a lot of free time, which I spent a lot of it shooting film, which then led to me being very broke. And so I was like, I need to get another job.
Hmm.
And I happen to really like goats. So I knew two people, like one lady who just had her own little private farm, and then an actual like dairy farm. And I ended up just helping her out for fun. And
Hmm.
then I applied to this dairy farm and got hired on there to milk goats like 2 mornings or nights a week. And it was enough to be able to like help me cover some of the cost of my film. so so it worked out well.
Perfect. Okay. Because I was like, there's got to be some reason here. Because like I worked a mini and odd job. Like I've done a lot of weird stuff. And it's always like, this could be a fun story, or like, hopefully this will help me do something I want to do. But I don't think
Yeah.
I've resorted to milking goats. I'm not far
I
from
mean,
there, but like,
I enjoyed it, except there were a couple of goats that were really mean and hated me.
yeah.
And but the rest of them were nice and they paid for my film, so I think
And
it was a good decision in the long run.
that's really what matters. I do also find it interesting. You said something about like your camera becoming more of a tool than something you enjoy doing. And I've had
Mhm.
this conversation a lot with some of my friends because I do videography primarily. And especially down in Phoenix, like the only work you can get as like a videographer is like very commercial professional sets. And I've been like did a bunch of broadcast stuff and like a bunch of like freelance like YouTube shows and stuff like that, or like commercials for companies. And it's so like bland and boring. It's like basically just having a job, but it sucks because it's like you're burnt out from doing the thing you want to do. So then when you have free time, it's like, well, I don't want to film anything because I just spent like 12 hours filming this thing.
Mhm.
So that I ran into the same issue where it's like I can't freelance in the thing I want to do when I have no control over it as much. And I feel like it's the same with like senior photos or stuff like that because it's like pretty rudimentary by the numbers. Take X amount of photos in similar settings, and you don't really get to
Mhm.
explore the same kind of creative processes that you would otherwise.
Exactly. I've really tried to lean away from doing stuff like that. Like there was a point where I really enjoyed doing it and I was like, this is a good way to make money. But with film photography, I have been trying to lean more into like fine art photography,
Hmm.
and I still have a lot to learn about actually doing that.
Yeah.
But I think that's one way in which that could kind of alleviate some of that, just that pressure of having to do what you love as your job. Um, I don't think there's as much money in it unless you can really make a name for yourself or, have a really dedicated clientele. But at this point in time, I'm not relying on photography to make a living.
Yeah,
And
you got
so
that
I
goat money.
figure,
You're good.
yeah. So I figure I might as well just, photograph what I love and then once I build up the confidence, then maybe try and put it out there to sell it. But yeah, I'm just trying to photograph what I actually want to photograph right now.
Okay. So that actually leads me to 2 points. One, in terms of your like fine art and how you like view the world in a certain way, do you have any like inspiration for your work? Is there any like photography you kind of go back to? Is like, I kind of like the way they take photos, you're pulling from different sources, or is just you just seeing things you like and going from there?
It's a little bit of both. So I think that I've always kind of approached photography as just capturing the things that I think are beautiful. Um, but now kind of coming more into that mindset of like, oh, is this marketable, has forced me to look and see like, yeah, am I taking pictures of things that there is a market for? But I don't want to just completely get sucked into that and then, fall
Yeah.
back into that thing of not actually photographing what I want to photograph. So one thing that I have kind of done to not solve that problem, but it's helped, is try to produce more like aesthetically consistent work.
Hmm.
And one way I've done that is just switching to shooting pretty much exclusively black and white.
Hmm.
Um, One thing that I struggled with when I was shooting color was just having any sort of consistency throughout my work.
Yeah.
And so I think that, if you are going to market yourself and sell your work, consistency is relatively important,
Yeah.
especially if someone likes your work, then they can come back and expect to find something similar if they want to purchase from you again.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially when it's art too, because there's like to most consumers, there's no like inherent tangible value to it. It's not
yeah,
like, I don't know, it's not like a tool or something that you can use. It's just like a pretty thing that you like. And so if you're
yeah,
consistently producing things that are nice to that one pretty thing, or like similar to that pretty thing that somebody liked, then they're going to continue to like your work. Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah, exactly. So as far as um my inspiration goes, um I wouldn't say I draw from any one place. I mean, I'm just constantly scrolling through Instagram. I'm like, wow, I love that.
Hmm.
um, and just kind of, you know, looking at the work of other people who are doing something similar and seeing what they're doing and how I can do better with my own stuff by learning from their techniques and everything. Um, is mainly how I've been kind of trying to grow in that way. Um, but yeah, so that just ties into like I've been following a lot more black and photographers on Instagram, and
Right.
I love seeing what they do, and I have no idea how to accomplish it most of the time. But I am just trying to see what other people are doing and then figure out how I can do that within, the parameters of what I actually want to be doing in a consistent way that
Hmm.
it's going to be marketable when I when I finally decide to market it.
Right. And that's my next question is like, do you have any kind of goal or any kind of like place you want to be with your work, or have you thought that far ahead? It sounds like you kind of have. I'm just curious what that is explicitly.
Yeah. So obviously, I would love to be able to make money off of doing what I love.
Right.
um,
That's the goal.
I, especially since it is such an expensive hobby, it's a little draining at times. And so, yeah, I have been looking into the possibility of, setting up an online storefront. I've been um exploring the possibility through like third party services that do that,
Hmm.
or I'm trying to figure out if I'll just build my own so that I don't have to like give a cut to anyone. But I would really like to start selling some prints. Um, and a little longer term, I'm in the process of setting up my own dark room. I actually have everything I need for it, but I just moved recently and all my
Oh
stuff
yeah.
is still uh
Hmm.
back at my parents' house. And so I really want to get into that world, like get really good in the dark room and sell some dark room prints as well. I think that that's something that I wouldn't say there's necessarily like a huge demand for it, but I think there are people out there who do recognize the value of like that process of just having everything being done like hands-on
Yeah.
with photography. And so I'd love to just cater to that niche group of people who would be interested in that.
Yeah. And I think too, as I've kind of seen a society develop in a certain way, I think there's a lot of admiration for things that are a little bit more nuanced and things like that. So I do think that while it might be a niche audience now, I think if you can really play up the importance of it, because I do think it is important to have like stuff that takes a little bit longer to work on, it increases its value. I think people will hopefully see that. And also your work is really good too. So I think people would not mind, spending a good chunk of change on it. But
Thank you.
yeah, of course. um, Black and white, you like to shoot it, love to see it. What is like some of your favorite stocks? I think you said something about Delta 100 you really liked, or did I make that
I
up?
I shoot Delta 400 sometimes, but my favorite is Ilford FP4.
Okay, that's what it
That
was. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like the contrast in that film.
Hmm.
I'm someone who leans more towards like punchy contrast black and white photos. It's weird because like whenever I see people with like the flatter um tones, I really, really like it, but I'm never actually drawn to shoot like that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, FP4 is a big one for me. Honestly, I haven't tried that many stocks. I'm kind of like, I don't know what you call it in the film world, but like in the food world, I'm a menu coward, and that transfers over to the film world where I'm like a film stock coward. I just like to
Yeah.
stick to what I know. Um, I really want to try more stuff, but when it's so expensive in the first place, it's like, do I really want to spend this much money on something that I may not end up even liking?
Yeah.
Um,
That's
so
fair. That's very
yeah,
fair.
I just put a roll of Pan F in my uh in my camera, and I'm going through that right now. So we'll see how that turns out. But it's the first time I've shot it.
I'm a big fan of Pan F.
What do
Actually,
you
I
like about it?
looks nice. No, I do think the contrast is really nice in it. That was one of the roles I took to England as well. And yeah, there's just like I think like the lower ASA is nice too because it's like really clean and crisp images. And
Yeah.
then also it's just so black and white. I don't feel like there's a lot of grayscale, which is really nice.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. And I think that it just kind of picked up a little bit more colors, if that makes sense. Like I think the
Mhm.
representation of the colors of the scene were a little bit better. I just really enjoyed it quite a bit. Also, the little canister has an orange lid on it, which I think is kind of fun. So little
Yep.
things like that.
Yeah.
But I shoot a lot of expired film, so my work is like super inconsistent, and it's mostly just for fun anyway. So I'm not like, oh no, but it is kind of fun when I like shoot some really weird looking high ASA expired film that shot like expired back in like the 90s or something. And it just comes out and it's just like super weird and like washy and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's money down the drain, but it's kind of fun. But
Yeah.
that makes me want to shoot more black and white because yeah, like I kind of have the same issue with like Cinesta, like the 800T and 50D. I feel like it's a little gimmicky in a way. Like it's cool, you can take good photos on it, but I just feel like I kind of like there's no way to shoot it in a way that you can't tell it's 800T. Like it's so evident that it's that kind of film. I feel like that kind of limits your creative control in a certain way.
Mhm.
And I feel like something like black and white is the similar property of like you don't get to see any of the color, but I also think that simplifies the imagery of like light and shadow and
Mhm.
subject as opposed to like, oh, look at this pretty neon sign that I found. And I feel like that's kind of
Yeah.
a more example of like someone's skill as opposed to just, I don't know, the more superficial beauty. Not to say that it's bad to shoot 800T, but it's just like my personal thing is I'm kind of getting more into film and stuff by process of the show and such. I just really prefer black and white. And I think I'll probably make that transition soon. Also, so much more money for color film.
Mhm.
Like even Color Plus, which was like supposed to be the cheapest film, is still just dicks expensive. It is mind boggling. And I'm like, it's not good film. I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
There
it's
were so
terrible.
many reasons I switched over to black and white. Number one, that cost is like insanely different.
Oh
It's so
yeah.
much expensive to shoot. And then also, like you were saying, it's kind of more evident somebody's skill level when they're shooting in black and white.
Hmm.
And so I started shooting black and white because I thought, and I still do think that it will teach me how to become a better photographer. Because at the end of the day, like the most important thing about photography is lighting. And so, and you have to think so much more about that with black and white.
Oh yeah.
And I'm still not great at that. But it's definitely there. Like there's a whole other mindset to shooting in black and white, which I think if you can really master that and really be able to analyze like the dynamic range in scenes, that it can produce some pretty awesome photos. And so that's kind of my goal right now is to really learn how to do that and like master the use of light and shadow in photography. Um, and then the other thing is that I also really wanted to get into developing myself, which I did end up doing.
Hmm.
And it's like, it's a breeze to do with black and white. So I really
Yeah.
enjoy that part of the process too.
It's funny because I started developing color film first, and I was like
Oh
so
my.
worried. I was like, oh, black and whites can be so hard, even though like all I know is that it's easier. But like before getting into it, I was like, oh, this is going to be the biggest challenge ever. And then I got the Cinestill monobath, and it took like 10 minutes to do for like
Mhm.
now my issue is scanning it because like I got the Epson V550 and that is
Mhm.
just the worst. But
Yeah. Do you shoot any medium format or mostly just 35
I
millimeter?
shoot a lot of medium format and like it scans medium format pretty well, but then when I shoot 35 millimeter, because I've got a lot of cameras that I'm trying to sell, so I'm like trying to test them and stuff. It is the worst for 35
I
millimeter
haven't even
scans.
tried shooting or scanning 35 millimeter, and I have the V550 as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I haven't even tried because I'm like,
So
I'm not going to be satisfied with the results. So that's one thing that's annoying is that every time I shoot 35 millimeter, I still have to send it into a lab, even if it is
mhm.
black and white, because I just don't want to have to go through the hassle of
Yeah.
scanning it and being super disappointed. But I haven't tried developing color yet. And that's my thing. Like I have the same thing you had with black and white where I'm so scared to even try. I was like so scared to try black and white in the
Oh
first place.
yeah.
And now I'm gonna have to learn how to do another thing. But yeah, we'll see. We'll get there
Yeah.
eventually.
I didn't think it was like too challenging. I think the first time I did it was like so like some friends, we did like a little developing party, and I think that kind of like made it a little bit easier. And then I just started doing it myself. But again, I just like built up this backlog of like stuff I developed, but I can't scan because it just looks like dog shit. So I just was like waiting. Now I've got like two binders full of film that I just like haven't scanned yet because I'm like waiting to get a good scanner, but there's like a million other things I have to do. So I'm like, is what it is. But
Yep, I feel that.
what is your favorite camera to use right now? I'm
Oh,
curious.
this is a really difficult
Yeah,
question.
yeah, I know.
I might have to narrow it down to more like two or three.
Works for
Um,
me.
okay, so right now I am shooting mostly medium format because of that whole thing with like wanting to be able to develop and scan myself to save
Hmm.
money. Um, and so the one that I shoot on most often right now is the Hasselblad 500 CM. And I love shooting on it.
Hmm.
It's a wonderful experience, but at the
Do
same
you just
time it
feel
is like
better than everybody all the time, or how's that work?
I definitely did feel that way when I
You're
first
like,
got
you're
it.
just like, oh,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, this? Oh, yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. Um, but I do think that if I weren't so limited in my like abilities of like developing and scanning, that I would be shooting a lot more 35 millimeter. And so yeah, my favorite 35 millimeter to shoot on is definitely the Emmy Super. Um, and that's probably what that's what I have shot the most
Hmm.
on throughout all the time that I've been shooting film. But simply because of my limitations with processing. Um, I do shoot mostly on the 500 cm. However, I do also shoot a lot on the Yashica Mat 124.
Okay.
That's a little less stressful to carry around, and I don't know,
Yeah.
it is a bit stressful carrying the Hasselblad around with me everywhere. So when I want to shoot medium format, and I don't want to have to deal with carrying around like my nice camera, I do really, really enjoy using the Yashica.
Couple things. This is an Emmy Super. If you're interested, what the brain of it looks like.
Oh my gosh.
It's terrible. Um, love this thing though. It's great. Um, but okay, so I have the Veronica deal, which is kind of like the same relative form, the Hasselblad with like the little box and look down and whatnot. And I also have the Mamiya, which is just a bulkier Yashica mat kind of deal.
Yeah.
Also, I repaired a Yashica mat one time that had a bunch of bugs in the inside of it, which was disgusting.
Oh,
Every time I think of a Yashica mat, that's all I think about is just like opening it up and there's just bugs everywhere.
yep. Oh, that's nasty.
It was disgusting. But anyway, I've also found like I just prefer the form factor of the TLR a lot in terms of like carrying it, in terms of like packing it. I feel like it's easier to travel with, even though it's a little bit, the Mamiya is pretty big. I just feel like it's easier to carry around as opposed to the Veronica. I was
Yeah,
curious if you had like a similar sensibility about that.
I agree. I do think it's easier shooting on the Yashica on the TLR. There's just kind of less to worry about.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I agree. It's easier to carry. It's almost more fun to shoot on, but there is like still this like sensationalism about shooting with the
Oh yeah,
Hasselblad.
you
Like
don't get the same sense of superiority with the Ashika mat, I'd imagine.
and the shutter slap.
Oh
I
yeah,
the Yashica doesn't have much there.
no, it's just like
Um,
sink. Yeah,
yep. But
yeah.
yeah, no, I agree. I think that overall it's honestly more of an easy, pleasurable shooting experience with a TLR.
Hmm.
It's just low stress.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the Mamiya was like my first legit film camera and stuff, and I would like recommend that to anybody because having medium format in the 6x6 means you only have like 12 exposures per roll, so you kind of have to prioritize what you want to shoot. And it's a square format, so it's like you're not going to be trying to figure out like, oh, do I want to shoot portrait or landscape, because it's all going to just look the same.
Mhm.
And there's like very few things to really worry about, and I really enjoy that process of it a lot. Everything's so analog and mechanical, and I really prefer that as opposed to something where it's just like, I don't know, it's all kind of done for you. Like
Yeah.
that's my one qualm with the ME Super is yes, it does have like the little manual mode, but like how often have you shot the manual?
I've actually never shot it in automatic. I
Oh, no
forgot it
kidding. Okay.
existed.
No fool. Okay, that's
Um,
funny.
I yeah, I mean because you're right that like it's just basically going to be the same thing as shooting in auto the way that metering system works.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't think I've ever shot it in automatic, and I think that that's just the habit that I've gotten
Oh
into.
yeah.
And
That's probably for the best, but my photography is just like, especially with
yeah,
35 millimeter, I'm just like ripping through it. So
I might have better results if I shot in auto because half the time I get rolls back and I'm like, this sucks. Why is it so? I followed the metering to the exact, you know,
yeah.
to the letter, but that's the problem too, is that I'm a very non-technical photographer. And
Hmm.
this is one of the reasons why I just started going back to school for photography. Like
I was gonna ask if you were going to school for that or any.
yeah. So I'm back in college as a photography major because I realized like I I think, I'll give myself some credit and say that I think I have a pretty good eye for photography. Like I think that there's just something that's always been there where it's like I'm decent at composition and like those things, like the more kind of like visual side of it, but the technical side of it, like I'm so not there. I
Hmm.
know like how to use a camera and like
Right.
how to use manual settings and all of that. But beyond that, it's like I do very little thought of like, oh, how can I make this like the very best image I can, like between shutter speed, f-stop, ISO, like all of those things. Um, for a long time, I was one of those people that just constantly shot wide open. Like
Hmm.
I never took it off of it just being fully wide open. And so just things like that. Like I'm trying to learn how to be more thoughtful in those ways.
Hmm.
And you're right. It's like with the Emmy Super, um, it kind of takes away that, I don't know. It's easy to just not do that with Emmy Super because it makes
Yeah.
everything so easy for you.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I kind of ran into that issue when I was shooting with the MX a lot, is it has the same form factor of the ME Super. So my monkey brain was like, oh, it's just automatic. And then I would just like shoot. And I was like, why are all my shots underexposed? Because I just like wasn't reading the readout at all. But I have a couple F4s, like the Nikon F4,
Ooh.
and they're pretty cool. But I like shot a wedding with that, so I had it on auto and was just kind of like firing away. And it's interesting because like there is zero interfacing whatsoever. You're not advancing to the next frame. You just like click down. It just feels like a digital camera. So you feel like so much more separated from the act of actually shooting a photo. Whereas with like the Mamiya, and set it up, make sure that, everything, all of my readings are correct and stuff, and it just feels like such a more involved process. And I think that's like one of the things I want to focus on more, because I kind of did the same thing you did, was I just drive around or go on walks and stuff and just shoot photos of whatever I saw, because I
Mhm.
had so much expired film. I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter, I'll just like keep shooting for the fun of it. But now it's kind of like I wouldn't mind if it was a little bit more calculated and I thought about things a little bit more and just kind of enjoyed the process of taking a photo, as opposed to just looking at it as, all right, got to take this photo and then move on to the next one.
Yeah.
That being said, with all the testing of cameras I have to do, it's kind of become a very like, all right, gotta jump onto this next camera. And I kind of like have lost that same feeling for it. So it's kind of a weird line I'm on right now, but it is interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's also the Minolta Maxim 9000. And I worked on one of those one time, and it had a power winder.
Mhm.
And the thing was like a giant brick glued to the bottom of it. Basically, it was just ridiculous. I think it took like 16 AA batteries or just something absurd like that.
Oh
It
my
was
gosh.
it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And the it just ran so slowly. And then the advance lever too that was on the 9000 was just like a little just corner of plastic. Like it felt like such an afterthought, like, oh, we got to put this advance lever on and stuff. And that's the only camera. It'd be like, if this had a motorized winder in it, I would not be mad, because this lever is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But
I've I've never really understood like auto winders on film cameras. I feel like
especially
it's
the ME
not,
Super.
yeah.
Like,
And it's not that difficult to, I don't know. I
no.
guess if you are, but who's really out there these days shooting like shooting film really fast?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not a
So,
very common thing. There's like I've seen a lot of like skateboard photographers that still do film, which I think is cool, but they usually use like an F5 or something, or an F4 or something that has like internal motor and stuff. But I've seen a lot of like people posting pictures of like their ME Super with the auto winder on it or whatever. And it's just like, I don't get it, because one, those things don't have a lot of torque. So it's not like you're advancing a lot faster than that. Like it's not a good action thing. And
yeah.
also it just like adds so much unnecessary bulk to the camera. Like it just, I
The
had one
whole
for a
point is that
while.
it's all
But yeah, I know,
small.
it's like, it's so you want to just erase that so you don't have to advance. It just makes no sense to me. I don't
Yeah.
get it, but to each their own. Also the contacts for the power winder are the
Mhm.
worst, because if you're taking apart the mirror box from the body of the camera, this kind of feeds in through the bottom. So you have to like take off the battery compartment to like kind of get all this out, and or unsolder the wires and then try and feed them back through individually to reset. It's just like, can we just not do this? Can we just like all agree to not do this?
I can't even imagine. I would be terrified to take any film camera apart. They look like there's a lot going on in there.
Oh yeah, daily. I'm terrified daily. I'm working on a 6.7 right now, a Pentax that like I've never even tried to repair one before. It was just kind of like sent in, and it is the most like clever camera I think I've ever seen. It's like it's not smart in terms that there's not a lot of electronics, but it's clever because it won't fire unless there's film in it, and the frame counter is kind of a little wonky in that regard. And basically what somebody did was like tried to, I don't know exactly what happened, but my theory is that it wasn't working, and then somebody ripped the advance, and then that sheared off a little peg on the advance column. So I
Mm.
basically had to buy another one, another 6.7, and replace that part. And I did that, and it took like a whole weekend of just getting all of the pieces to sit properly, and now it still doesn't work, and I have no clue why. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. And it's like I don't want to dig any more into it because I'm just like terrified that like I'm gonna just like, I don't know, break it more. But I guess I can't break it any more than it's already broken. So
I mean, props to you for trying, because it's like there's I've wondered how the heck. I think I even asked you about this at one point. Like, how do you learn how to do this? Because it's not like there's that many people out there who do it that you
no.
can talk to or ask. And then it's like it everything's old. Like there's no YouTube tutorials of people like the people who made these on how,
Oh
it's
yeah.
I feel like it must be a struggle finding even the smallest bit of information on how to do anything whatsoever.
Okay. So it really is. I think the biggest benefit was like my old job was a like camera refurbishing company that like basically he bought a bunch of cameras on eBay and Goodwill and stuff, and then we would repair them, and then he would send repair them, and then he would sell them to people on eBay and Amazon and stuff like that.
Mm.
um just the worst place. So I got hired on to do triage. So I was like in charge of opening up all the packages, testing cameras and stuff. And then about 2 days into that, he was like, oh, also you can just repair stuff too. So I kind of learned how to do the triage and then the repair. So after like a few months of doing that, the dude I was doing triage with, who actually used to like work down in Medford, interestingly enough.
I was born.
Um, you were born in Medford?
Yeah,
No fooling. I got an aunt who lives down there. I've been there like so many times.
I love Ashland, Medford area. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's pretty nice. It gets weirdly hot there though, like during the summertime. It's
Yeah, it does. Fortunately, I haven't spent too much time there in the summers recently. So, but I
that's
remember,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's interesting. Anyway, so I kind of replaced him on his job because I just got really good at testing cameras and stuff. And then in terms of like the repairs, there was a guy who was there before me who knew a lot, and then he left pretty much immediately after I came in. And then there was another dude I was working with who knew like a good deal. And then he left pretty quickly soon after. So it was just kind of like me. And I basically just learned by like trial by fire, breaking stuff and then kind of putting it back together. There was a few things that like one of my buddies told me how to do, like the infinite winding on the ME Super. Like the standard repair for that's pretty straightforward, but there was so many issues that like now I look at and be like, how stupid that we were trying to fix it that way because there's like a better way to do it.
Mhm.
But because none of them were my cameras, they were all like my boss's cameras, and I was not getting paid anything at all. I like didn't feel too bad about like breaking a bunch of shit to figure out how other things worked.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my experience. I feel like it was very beneficial, but at the same time, it's kind of jaded my perception of a lot of things.
Mhm.
When people like show up with like a Nikon FE, I gag a little bit because they're terrible and I hate working on them. They're fine cameras, but like ugh, ugh, the worst. And then like when somebody like rolls up with like a Yashica Electro, I'm like, that's a dog shit camera. It's a fine camera, but like I spent so much time trying to fix them, and I inhaled so much mercury from like trying to chisel the batteries out. It's like I have a little bit of a qualm with them. Uh
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. That's kind of my experience, but it is kind of difficult to like talk with people about it, because there's a lot of like gatekeeping involved, because it's a very like
Mm,
niche community and stuff.
yeah.
um and I just kind of do my own thing. Then I make like the YouTube videos of like me repairing stuff, and that seems to help people out, which I dig.
Mm,
Because I just think like, I don't know, I why not share the information I have, because it's not great and I feel like I could always learn more stuff, but if I know something that someone else could use, then why not? So
right. Makes sense.
yeah. Also the Argus C3s, those like box cameras, dog
Mm,
shit, throw them away, get rid of them.
okay. All right, I'll keep that in mind. I will not get one of those.
Unless it's like $5. I saw one for like $45 the other day. I'm like, for what? For
Yeah, just
what?
get it for decor. I know I have so many cameras that just don't work and are terrible cameras just because I like the way they look.
Oh
So
yeah. And nothing wrong with that. The C3 is like you can make work, but it's just like there's just so many better options. Like,
yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have many other questions. I was not very prepared for this because
I
was there anything else you wanted to chat about?
uh, I mean, not really that I can think of right now, honestly. Like I film has been a little bit further back in my mind just ever since like starting to go back to school, settling into things here. It's been very busy. I just went out and shot film for the first time in maybe like 3 or 4 weeks a couple days ago and shot like 3 frames.
Nice.
um, so it's I really, really need to get back into it because I really do love it and I want to like, yeah,
Yeah,
get back. But it's like just being in a new place and like not knowing where I want to go to shoot or anything. So, but I hope to, yeah, to get back on that.
I kind of feel that when I moved up here, it was like, all right, cool. I want to like go on a drive and like go see things, but it's like I don't really know what I want to see. Like, I don't know what I'm shooting. And I was a little bit like burnt out when I moved up here too. So it's been kind of hard to kind of get back into the swing of that. Um,
Yeah.
what's your like photographic process like exactly? Like, do you, when you take photos, do you have like a tripod? Do you like set up each shot, or do you just like handhold? How do you go about that? Because that always interests me to see how people.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever shot a single film photo with the tripod.
Mhm,
I'm like 100% handheld. That's like one of like going back to that thing about wanting to be a lot more intentional
mhm,
about shooting is like because obviously there's so many things that you can't do if you're just doing handheld photography. Like I want to do, play around with doing long exposures and things like that. So, my plan is to adjust my photographic process
okay.
to allow for more of that. But yeah, I mean, right now I just walk around holding my camera in front of me. I'm like, "Ah, I like that." So there's not much process.
Okay.
Again, like I said, going back to that thing of being more intentional, I have really started putting a lot more effort into that. And at least at least being like, okay, maybe I shouldn't shoot this wide open. There's like some nice background context stuff
Right.
here that I might want to include. So, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of process to be honest. That's something that I'm working towards, and that's again why I'm going to school for photography is to just learn how to kind of change my mindset about those
Okay.
more technical things.
So, a couple things from that. Was there like something that spurred your desire to go back to school? Like any particular thing, or was it just like this refound enjoyment?
Yeah, so hmm. Well, we have to kind of go back to why I left school, which
Okay.
was number one, COVID. And so everything, went online. And I was homeschooled for a couple years in middle, like from seventh grade to junior year of high school. And I hated that. And so when COVID came, because I'm an only child, and so I
Mhm.
was just all alone doing school by myself
That
all
sounds great. I don't know what
day.
you're.
Yeah. And so when COVID hit, it was like going back to that. And I was like, this ain't it.
Yeah. You're
And
paying the
also,
exact same amount of money too for like online school and stuff. I was like, how is
yeah,
that okay?
yeah. And then around that same time too is when our business burned down. And so I actually had to drop out of school to help like build the business
Yeah.
back.
Real quick, how
And
did that
so,
happen exactly? I'm just curious, like, because I don't think I've heard many warehouses just like burning down.
yeah, so there we don't have a definitive answer.
Okay.
Um, Four businesses actually burned down. An antique
Yeah.
mall, a like a pellet stove, like patio stove company, a hazelnut processing factory, and our furniture company. And the fire started in the hazelnut processing
I
company.
knew it. I knew it. You can't trust them.
um, um, and it spread to the two other buildings, and then our building was the last to burn
Mm,
down. And how our building caught fire was that just like we had some like wood cutoffs and stuff leaning up against, and like our building legitimately like just spontaneously combusted. We watched the whole thing. It was like it started at around 1 in the morning or so, and we're just standing
nice.
there like, well, this is what it is. But yeah, there's no definitive answer. There's different theories going around. Some
Okay.
people think that it was faulty machinery. Some people think that there was like a cell phone tower on top. So some people think maybe something shorted out. Some people suspect arson. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so but there hasn't been a definitive thing that's come out yet. I don't know. I have heard some things that I actually am not supposed to reveal,
That's
but
okay.
there's things brewing that I think
Okay.
come out. We'll see.
Well, I hope it settles itself in some regard, but that I can't imagine that would just absolutely blow. Like,
Yeah. It was difficult because it's like a business that my dad built up
mhm.
from the ground, like, by himself. Him, my mom and I, and we'd been at it for about 10 or 11 years. So, and we were like just at the peak of when everything was starting to like really, really take off.
Mhm.
Um, like 2 weeks before that, we were like looking back over our financial statements, like, wow, we like grew by 150% this year. And
Awesome.
then
Yeah.
2 weeks later, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, but getting back to your question, I ended up deciding to go back to school because I just felt like I was very stuck in life. Like, I love helping out my family and like being a part of the business, but that's not my own personal dream. And
Mhm.
so I had just been feeling kind of like, I was working a 9 to 5 desk job doing like secretarial stuff. And
Yeah. That's what
um
I'm doing right now.
yeah. And so I was just kind of like, I'm not doing anything with my life.
Mhm.
And my parents like they're the kind of parents that are like, you have to get a degree. You like, there's no other option. And I was like, I don't want to. I hate school.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I almost like, I mean, I did drop out because of the business, but I was considering not even going back. But I figured, I do want to do something with my life. I'm not ready to just like try to build a career off of photography as things are right now.
Mhm.
So I'll go back to school. And if I'm going to go back to school, I'm going to go back to school for something that I actually really want to do. Because prior to everything, when I was just in school originally, I was going for like my interests were centered around psychology, communication arts, like broadcast, journalism. My mom's a journalist. And then um, business. And those are all things that I'm still interested in, but I don't know if I want to like pay my life savings and spend all my time working on
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I think that's
But
fair.
however, like I said earlier, photography is the only thing that I've ever really stuck with for a long time.
And
As
do you
far
think
as
that's just because you feel like you have a natural knack for it, which seeing your work, I would argue that you do, but do you think that's what it is? Like it just comes easy to you or is just right place, right time kind of thing?
uh I'm not sure. I think it could be that just like sense of like, okay, this is like the thing that I'm good at. Why try something else? Like,
Hmm.
why not just try to develop my skills in this area? I just genuinely got a lot of joy from it.
Yeah.
And And I feel like it's also a way in which I, if I do it correctly, that I can also use it to like help serve other people too, which is a big thing for me. Um, whether that be, working with clients doing things like senior and wedding photography, I'm not closed off to that. That's something that I really do enjoy portraiture. I just enjoy doing it in a little bit more of a artistic setting than senior
Yeah.
photos.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but yeah, so I'm not sure exactly why I decided to just like go full force in with it, but I figured, like there's nothing else that I'm more interested in. I
Mhm.
might as well just do this. Yeah, if I have to spend a bunch of time and money on something, it might as well be something that I love.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a lot of people's awakenings post the Rona was just realizing like, "Oh, nobody really cares about the things I wanna do. Like, the world isn't, like, waiting for me to make a decision. I just have to do stuff I wanna do." And I feel
Mhm.
like that was really healthy for a lot of people. Me especially was just like, "Oh, I need to do my own thing because this is not working for me."
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the play because any kind of, like, financial gain you can receive from a position, if you're not being, like, equally fulfilled from it, it just feels, like, empty to me at least. So I definitely respect that. Um, I also want to draw back to another point of you kind of figuring out your process, so to speak, or lack thereof. Do you think by like introducing new elements to that, like a tripod or stuff like that, and like kind of slowing it down, do you think that will like hinder you in any way, or are you looking at that as more of a more tools to explore the media?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that there's just like so much untapped potential out there,
Hmm.
of just the kinds of images that I can create if I really just take the time to do it. Um, and so I do want to slow that process down and really make images that I'm satisfied with because half the, like I said, when I would shoot digital, I would like way overshoot and just shoot
Oh
too
yeah,
fast. And
yeah.
I'm
That's like
definitely
the wedding photos I have to go through. I've got all the filmed ones done, but I've got like over 1,000 digital ones I have to go through, and I just like don't want to, but I need to. I just like
yeah. So I would say I'm definitely much, much more thoughtful when I'm shooting film. Like I'm not just going out and clicking away.
yeah.
It's gotten to the point where it's really difficult for me to take a photo because it's like, what if it's just absolutely not worth it and I'm gonna hate it and wonder why I spent so much money on this one
It's
frame.
all of my photography.
Yeah. So I do think that actually slowing down and being a lot more intentional and I'm still not going to get a full role that I actually really like and I'm satisfied with, but at least I'm going to be to the best of my ability, like, not being financially stupid
Mhm. Yeah.
and get more images that I am satisfied with. So no, I don't think it's going to hinder me to have
Okay.
to like slow that down. I think that in the end it's going to make me a better photographer, a more confident photographer,
Yeah.
and a more marketable one too if I get to that point, which
Yeah.
hopefully I do.
And I think it will just help you bolster your understanding of the art
Mhm.
as well. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of important too. That's something I have to like remind myself because I'm like very much, even like with film work and stuff like that, I'm just like run and gun because I find that to be very enjoyable. I think that kind of communicates a certain energy through the work.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's still kind of limiting because if you're not like on it, you could miss like an important insert shot for a scene or something like that, or you could miss like a really cool thing that's just happening naturally in the world. On the flip side, you could also capture that cool thing and you wouldn't have otherwise because you can't plan for all of those things. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's just kind of trying to navigate that in my mind because I really enjoy like very quick things because I think it's more fun. I think it's like more energetic and things,
Mhm.
but I would also like to just kind of be more smart about things. You're not so financially dumb.
I do also think that if you kind of go back and start over again from that process of like really being slow and intentional, that eventually you'll be able to speed that up.
Oh
Like
yeah.
once your brain works in that way of really understanding, like, the basics, like setting up shots and like, you know, yeah, what settings you want to use to
Yeah.
maximize the potential of the image, that um I think slowing it down is really just a way for you to learn that in a more controlled way. And
Yeah.
then once you're really, really kind of fluent in that way of shooting, in that process, then you can kind of go back to that faster paced um process and get
Hmm.
better results.
Yeah. And again, not going to get a whole roll of images that you
Yeah.
like, but at least more than one, hopefully.
Yeah, I think my average from a 36 frame roll is probably like 3 or 4 that I'm like, I might post these.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mine is probably not that high, but also my like quality for like my standards are very low because photography for me is just like a fun thing.
Mhm.
But my video work, I feel like I'll shoot anytime I'm like hanging out with buddies or something like that. I'm always like filming stuff. And then of that like hour-long hangout, I'll cut it down to like a 32-minute long video, just like little bits that I think are like worth keeping. But there's
Mhm.
so much that just like it's like filth, garbage. Why did I even hit record? What am I doing here? But
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's a struggle. It's like you're looking at it and you're like, wow, I really, really thought this was gonna
yeah,
something, and here we are, and I like
this is what I
exactly
got.
1.5 frames off of this roll, and why am I still doing this? But
Yeah, yeah.
and then you do it again.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, who was I fooling? Buy more film.
Yep.
Just you're in Corvallis, yeah,
Yep.
thereabouts. Okay. Fun fact, I flew up here a couple years back with another friend of mine, and we were gonna buy a Subaru and then drive back to Phoenix in it.
Mhm.
And basically flew in the morning, and then kind of like waiting around all day to hear back from the whatever person was selling the car. I don't remember if it was like a dealership or whatever, but they were like replacing the head gasket or something, which is a little bit of a red flag, you know?
Mhm.
And finally got it done. It was like 9 p.m. when we got the car. And then we're driving down the road on the five. And I don't remember where we were trying to make it, but I think we were trying to make it down to like Brookings. I got a bunch of family down there.
Mhm.
And we're going to try and do that one night, which would be brutal. But then the head gasket blew like on the
Oh no.
five. And then we got picked up by like this tow truck driver that had like actually two teeth. Like I'm not even joking. Like it was literally two teeth.
And it's
And
what time at this point?
it was 2 in the morning by the time he got
Oh
to us. Yeah, and
no.
it's like freezing outside because it was like early January. But this
Mhm.
tow truck driver comes up and he's like, "What's the problem?" He's like, "We just need it towed." And he's like, "Oh, why don't you turn the engine over?" He's like trying to fix it on the side of the road, and it's not starting. He's like, "Yeah, it's not starting." I'm like, "Yeah, we know. Can you just tow us?" So then we got towed into Corvallis and we spent the night there. It was pretty miserable.
I'm so sorry that that was your experience of Corvallis. Mine has been slightly better than that.
Good, I hope so.
Yes.
Also, every time he shifted, there was a bench seat in the tow
Oh,
truck, and I had to sit in the middle seat
yep.
because I was like, I'll take one for the team, and he was just like kept grazing my thigh with his hand every time he
Oh.
shifted. It was like the most uncomfortable. I was like, oh, oh, it's like I don't like
Oh,
this. Not a fan. Not a fan.
that sounds
Um,
awful.
but yeah, and I was talking to my buddy Chase, and we are thinking about popping down to Corvallis at some point just to kind of dick around. So if you're ever down for a little photo walk, I'd love to meet you
Yeah,
IRL.
I know, right? I'll have to like go around, scout out some good spots and be like, I got the good places.
Yeah, that'd be
I have
killer.
not done that yet, but it is honestly like there's some places around here. There's some nice stuff that I've seen. And also there's like nice natural areas too. I was so being a photography major, like a lot of my homework involves going out and taking photos.
Interesting.
And I went out on a hike the day before yesterday to I had an assignment that I had to take 1,000 photos for, just of anything. Um And fortunately, this is a digital
I was gonna say
photography
that's a lot of film. It's like, oh my
course.
god, you get a
Yeah,
stipend for that or what?
I know, right? That'd be so cool though if they paid us to shoot film.
Oh
But
yeah.
anyways, um, yeah, I went out and like, yeah, there's some nice hiking out here, but I got lost and I ended up like 6 miles from my car. And there's
Jesus.
maps everywhere, but the problem was I didn't know where I parked my car. I had no idea the name of the trailhead. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is great, but I actually don't know where I'm going. And so I
Nice.
I was expecting to be out there for about an hour, and I was out there for about 4.5 hours with no water because I wasn't expecting to get lost 6 miles from my
Naturally.
car.
Yeah.
And
Do you take 1,000 photos though?
no, because I was too stressed about being lost. I, that was the intention. And then like at one point I'm like, you know what? I actually need to figure out how to get back and not be like not paying attention to where I'm going because I'm taking
Yeah.
photos. So I don't know. I did not really accomplish what I set out to do, but it was fine. I ended up getting home fine, and
That's good. I didn't
we'll
know if
go
like you
back with a friend who knows what they're doing.
I didn't know if this like wood backdrop was just still you being lost.
Yeah, I'm still
Just still
out
out
here
here.
for help.
Can't find my car. It's been days.
I ate my camera. Yeah. So but that was not really selling it very well. I really meant to tell that story as a way to be like, there's nice hiking
Oh
here.
yeah, no. I
And that didn't
so,
work, but
two teeth truck drivers and getting lost in the woods. Sounds like a blast to me. What is
yeah.
Deliverance Part 2 out there? It sounds like.
Yeah. Well, and while I was out in the woods, I found this like I don't really know how to describe it. It was this like circle of stump chairs with this one big stump in the middle and a bunch of little like coasters made of sliced wood with just like rocks and crystals on them. And I'm like, I have stumbled into a ritual circle of some
Yes.
sort. I think I'm going to leave.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
Yeah, I like, I don't know what this is, but I feel like it's not for me.
Hmm.
I'm yeah.
That's kind
So
of one of my favorite parts about hiking is when you just stumble across like the weird shit people do in the woods. You're like, I don't
hmm
really know what the intent was here, but I'm good. I don't even want to know. I'm good.
yeah.
Ignorance is bliss. I'm just gonna walk away, pretend nothing happened. We're all good here.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but good hiking.
Oh, good. Yeah. It sounds like a blast to me.
Yeah. But yes, no, if you ever come down, let me know.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
By that point, hopefully I will have like found some good
Yeah.
spots.
Did you end up shooting the Advantix yet? APS Film.
Ooh, yes, I have not gotten it developed yet. I It's sitting on my shelf right now, and I frankly haven't developed it because money.
Oh yeah. No, it's
Just like starting off school, it's like, dang, I have like living expenses now, and I
yeah.
probably shouldn't blow all my money on film.
Yeah.
Um,
I have
so
to feed myself at some point.
yes, that's legitimately it's like food or film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I have chosen food.
Good.
Uh,
You can't eat all of your cameras.
um, but yeah, I'm going to hopefully there's actually a a lab like 8 minutes from where I live, like a
No fun.
small little neighborhood photo lab, like film lab. So I'm gonna see if I can get in there and
Yeah.
hope I don't know if they'll develop that, but
I
I don't
don't
know. That's just a
know.
nice little side note.
Yeah. No, I think that there's like a specialized machine for it.
Hmm
I think I sent mine out to Darkroom and they did it because
Okay.
that's usually where I send my stuff out to. 'Cause it's just easier.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure. You could also probably there's probably a way to just develop it normally, but it's really weird film. I like the idea of it, but it just kind of doesn't make sense. And then like the cameras that they made for it are just not good, like just
Yeah.
bad.
The one I have, I think it is one of the I think I don't actually know that much about it. I bought it by accident.
Yeah.
I was like scrolling through Etsy. I'm like, that's a cute point and shoot
Hmm.
purchase. I'm like, why isn't my film going in? And so that's how I ended up shooting
Yeah.
that.
It's that little
But yeah,
triangle and circle is just the mark of death, really.
yep,
Yeah. Anytime like I would see that, I was like, damn, another one. Because there's
yep.
like some cute little compact deals, and they're like not good in terms of like it's not like a good camera to have at all times, but there's like some pretty neat ones. I got the it's like some Yashica deal, and it looks like a little camcorder, which is kind of
Oh,
neat.
nice.
Um, all Advantex though, and it kind of blows. It does also have like a really weird zoom where it just like keeps going. It's just like it's a little phallic in
Oh,
nature, just like every time I was like zooming, it's like and it's like
yep,
I don't know about that.
yep.
And then I ended
I
up with an Olympus like at the pen, but it's the Advantex version, and it's like super teeny tiny. It's really nice, but uh it's like great. I have like not a lot of Advantex film, and like I don't hardly ever shoot it, so this is awesome. I have garbage now. Yay.
yeah, decor. Uh,
Yay.
they're not even that cute though. But the one that I have, it's the Rolly Nano. Uh,
Yeah.
and it is, I mean, that's why I bought it. I was like, that looks nice. Like, that's such a nice film point and shoot. There aren't many that actually look that nice. And then it ended up being not what I was expecting. And that's okay.
Yeah. I have like a really big issue with point and shoots, like more generally speaking. I had a Yashica, what was it? It's over there somewhere. I had a really nice one that I liked a lot. Konica. That was a Konica A4. That's what it was. Perfect. Then it just died randomly, which like happens because these are electronics from like the late 80s, early 90s.
Mhm.
And anything that's like operating with like AA batteries and stuff, like the corrosive value of that is just like so stupid high. So it's like I hate working on them. And then
Mhm.
also when people get them, they turn around and sell them for like way too much money. And I'm just like, why are you doing this? Because like it's not gonna last very long. I just find it
Mm-mm.
silly. So
Yeah, I really do not enjoy point and shoots as well. I think I've probably put a total of like one full roll through a point and shoot. And I, it was right around the time I first started shooting film, and I thought it was an autofocus camera, but it wasn't.
interesting.
And so I got all my photos back, and I was like, why do they all suck? And uh, so now I actually found a point and shoot. What is it? It's a Ricoh. I don't remember what the model is, but it is an autofocus.
Okay.
And I'm in the process of going through that. And I'm hoping we'll get some better results.
Is it like
But
the GR or is it a different Rico?
I actually have no
That's
idea.
okay.
I've not looked at it in a while. Because it's so like, why would I shoot a point on a point and shoot when I have like all these other nice like
Yeah,
SLRs I could shoot, especially when you have something like the ME Super that's basically the same size. Film point and shoots are humongous.
they
Um,
really are. Yeah.
the yeah, so why would I do that when I can shoot on something that has like a much nicer lens and I have more control over it, and
Hmm.
I can put it in auto if I want to, want it to function like point and shoot. So it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, it's really difficult for me to choose to shoot a point and shoot. And at this point, I'm only doing it because I want to like test it out.
Right.
Um, so
I think my like only real desire to shoot point and shoot is just this idea of like a nice, easy backup thing that I can just go to. And sometimes when they have like the flash in the system, it's like super, it's a neat look, just like an automated flash look. Um, that's like kind of my big draw to them. But again, from a mechanical standpoint and knowing what I know about cameras, I just can't rationalize spending money on it because it's just gonna die. And now
yeah.
you just have like a hunk of plastic and bad circuitry that you can't do anything with. And my
Yeah.
dumbass would try to fix it, and I can't because I have an art degree, not electrical engineering. So yeah, just not really for me, but I get why other people like it. I feel like it's good, especially like the M35, the Kodak camera that has just kind
Mhm.
of been coming out, the plastic deal. Those are cool because it gets people in to film with like only having to spend like $40 for a camera and stuff. It's poor quality, but like it's just a nice way to get your foot in the door. Um, but still, even then, I just would rather shoot an SLR. Like you said, I'd much rather shoot an ME Super. Even like the Canon at 28 that I have, it's like a little rangefinder deal. It's
Yeah.
a nice little point and shoot thing. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's all metal. I don't have to worry about it. Also, I can like take it apart blindfolded, which is a huge benefit because I just like working with things that I know I can fix if I need to. So,
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I would love to at least learn the basics of how to kind of address like problem shoot my own cameras that I have, because
mhm,
like I had a problem with my Hasselblad a little while ago and I ended up having to send it in for a repair. But it was like, and the only reason I had to was because the part that I had to access, I have the like a late release CM, and so
mhm,
there's like a part that's covered up that on the early release ones it's not covered and you can access it and tinker with it, but mine's like fully sealed in there, so I had to send it in. But it was like I almost fixed it, and then it's just that
mhm.
last part I couldn't do. But I mean those repairs get expensive, so I would love to be able
Yeah,
to at least just know how to deal with my own stuff.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's for me. I'm like I try to keep my prices as low as I can, but then it gets to like certain cameras where I'm like I've literally never worked on it. Like the 6.7. I've never worked on this before. I've already spent $200 to get this parts camera for it, and I still haven't got it fixed. I've been spending like I've had it for like 4 or 5 months now, which is like infinitely longer than I want to have a camera for. But it's just like I can't just snap my fingers and make it work. So it's like I feel like I should charge a lot more, but I kind of have an agreement with the dude. It's a whole mess, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's kind of it's a weird thing. I'm also terrible at, like pricing myself for things, which is why I also like don't do freelance stuff because I'm like, oh, I'll do that for free. And then it's like I should probably get paid for a lot of the things I do. Even
Yeah.
this wedding thing, I got paid like just nothing for.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should be getting paid more, but this is fine, I guess.
Yep.
And
I have like, it's one thing to like post your stuff on Instagram and, you know, get likes as payment.
yeah, yeah.
But I have absolutely no confidence in actually like selling my stuff at this point. And I don't know why that is. It's honestly more for technical reasons where it's like, ugh, what if it just like doesn't look good in this size of a print? And I have sold somebody like a subpar quality product. Um,
Hmm.
and I just have so many mental roadblocks up around that right now. But yeah, there's just so many things where it's like I could be making money off of this if I really tried and set my mind to it and like, yeah, went about it in the right way. But I don't have the confidence. I undersell myself where I'm just like, my stuff isn't worth anything and no one
Hmm.
wants it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. So I think that's just kind of like the artist struggle though. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
everyone kind of goes through that. And
Yeah.
some people are fortunate enough to be able to overcome it. I'm not there yet, but we'll see.
At the end of the day, I feel like people that are a little bit more unsure and willing to learn are just so much better to work with, so much better artists, just better people, in my opinion. But I've not met everybody, so I don't really have like the final word on that. And also, I don't have a psychology degree, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Just an art degree. So,
No, I agree with you though. Someone actually messaged me yesterday, like our, I don't know when it was, the day that I went on the hike. I posted something to my story about where I had mentioned that I was a photography major, and somebody messaged me and was like, I just think it's so cool that you're like humble enough to take classes. And it's like, first of all, like what you see on my Instagram is like the very rare few photos that I actually am satisfied with. And then
mhm,
it's like, but the thing is like I have so much to learn. And
mhm,
that's what's like so exciting about it though, is that I I can take whatever natural instinct I have for it and then balance it out with all this like technical stuff that I'm going to learn. And like I don't know, I'm just really psyched about it. And but it is really frustrating when you run into those people who whether or not they are like really talented at what they're doing, they do have that mindset of like, I know what I'm doing and like I am going to do it this way and this is the right way
Hmm.
and everyone else sucks. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I especially when you see people like that who are like who happen to be really good at marketing themselves and like are selling a lot of work, and it's like there are people out there who are genuinely really really good photographers who are like that, and so it's like yes, you know, in many ways they do deserve it, they do deserve the credit that they're getting and whatever financial compensation they're getting.
Right. Yeah.
But there's also people out there who it's like they have this attitude of, you know, of superiority for whatever reason, where they feel like they've got it all figured out, and that combined with like being good at marketing themselves, and it's like I don't know, I'm not trying to sound stuck up, but I've seen people who are like, I feel like I'm objectively a better photographer, and yet
Oh
you're like
yeah.
doing so well, um selling your stuff and like uh yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I get
It's just
exactly what I mean. Because
frustrating.
it's like you're like, oh, cool. You made a bunch of money, but I don't really value people's work by the monetary gain. Like that's obviously a huge benefit. Like if you can make money off your stuff, fantastic. Do
Yeah.
that. But like if your sole purpose is to make money, it's like it just kind of that makes me question like your intentions on getting into it in the first place. At
That's a
that point,
good
just get a
point.
job, you know? Like
Yeah, that's a good point. Is that like I think what really grinds my gears in situations like that is that I feel like it's it's not genuinely because they're like doing what they love or making art for the sake of art. It's just like it's more that, you know, they have this skill in this area and then they have a lot more skill with like marketing and they have the
yeah.
confidence and like good for them. I'm
Oh
glad
yeah.
they're
No,
doing
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'm like glad it's great. It's just like I just wish I could figure that out too. That
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
nice, but
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not anywhere near comfortable to like sell my stuff as like prints. I do want to do like photo books because I think those are like a lot of fun.
that is a big struggle for me because it's like it's really hard to be original as a photographer. It feels like just about everything has been done. And unless
Hmm.
you're like capture some really unique moment while out doing like street photography or something, it just
Yeah.
feels like there's not a lot that you can do that like I feel like I have like imposter syndrome where it's like, oh, if I'm trying to sell
Yeah.
my stuff, it's like, why would I even try to sell my stuff if there's somebody out there who's probably taken like an identical photo that's much better? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Same. And so that's I mean, this opens up a whole other can of worms where it's like I feel like the only way that you can really get past that and feel any sort of confidence about selling your work is I think this is especially kind of relevant with photographers is also selling yourself along with your work, which is why like on my social media, I haven't been great about it recently, but I've tried to kind of make more of a personal connection with my followers and with anyone who's interested in having any sort of connection where it's like because I don't think that my work by itself is very unique or very great in any particular way. Like it's nice. I think that I've
Hmm.
taken nice photos, but I don't think it necessarily stands out. However, I am an individual with you know, with an individual personality, and if I can kind of connect with people in some way where they have any desire to support me, then I feel a little bit more justified in selling my work, if that makes any sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, that makes
Or
complete sense.
so that's one reason why I haven't made that leap to start selling is because I feel like yeah, like all of my stuff is like they might be nice photos. I'm sure many of the photos in that photo book are genuinely really nice photos, but it's like, yeah, why would I sell this when there's somebody out there who's done it better? Um, and I just have to remember like, well, I think that for a lot of people, it's not going to be so much about just the image itself, but
Hmm.
as as like wanting to have something that was made by a person.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I have sold a couple of prints. And
Congratulations.
thank you. Like literally like two.
Yeah. Still good enough.
um,
More than I've sold. So,
but they were like to this lady who I mean she found my photography, she liked my photography, and then we started talking, like we exchanged some messages over Instagram, and then it was like she decided she wanted to buy some prints because it wasn't, you know, it was no longer just about an image, but it was about like something that someone had created.
mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, ideally, you know, I want to get to a point of really being able to take, you know, unique and standout photos. Um, I don't feel like I'm there yet, but in the meantime, I
Yeah.
feel like I can I can just use myself as
Yeah.
the thing that makes my photos unique.
A few things to that. One, I do think you take very unique photos. Like, I don't think I've seen like black and white photos in the way that you take. I don't really like follow black and white photos probably as much as you do, but still, every time I see your work, I always know it's yours. It, like, pops out at me. I'm like, oh, this is. It just always looks really good. So I
Thank you.
wouldn't judge yourself too harshly there, but I mean that's easier said than done. The other thing too, it's interesting you say that because I do a lot of baking. It's like one of my favorite things. So I if we do go for a photo walk, I will definitely bring you baked goods. Just let me know kind of what you like. Uh,
My roommates have a heck of a sweet tooth, so
I do sourdough cinnamon rolls
oh,
and also pies, lots of
oh my
pies.
gosh. That
So
sounds
yeah,
amazing.
I definitely got you. But
Yeah,
anyway,
come down to Ross.
yeah. But yeah, it's like on the joke every time you like look up recipes, there's like their whole life story and then the recipe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's so funny because like part of me is like I don't care about your like grandma's second removed aunt who like escaped Poland in the 40s. Like that doesn't just tell me how to make this blueberry pie filling. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
But then I think back to like learning how to bake when I was a kid with like my grandma and stuff. And it's like if someone was to ask me like why do you like baking? I'd probably like start with that story, like kind of talk about whatever else that kind of led into this new addiction that I have. And I think it's those elements that really personalize the experience and like make people more interested. So it is very important, I think, to like be cognizant that like one, you do need to set yourself apart because we live in a world with like 7 billion people that are all relatively different. There's a lot of similarities, but still like we all have our own different experiences or different perceptions of the world. And like that alone is very important. But also everyone is different. And we also live in a state where we're told the more different you are, the better you are in some regard. Like the more you can market yourself in a different way, the more important to some regard you are as like a as an entity. Like marketing yourself, marketing your business in a way that makes it different from everybody else. Like there's only so much of the spectrum of difference you can be. So that's
Mhm.
like something I found is very challenging to navigate. Cause it's like I want to make movies and stuff, but there's been like millions and millions of movies made. So it's like trying to find the kind of movie I want to make where I feel like it's an authentic movie to like something I enjoy, but it doesn't like pull too much from anything else is it's challenging. So I think what helps is like finding abstractions and things that you enjoy and diluting that down and like kind of carrying certain elements of that into your work. But then also, like you said, just being able to communicate with other people that might be interested, form a connection. And at that point, like I would buy your prints. I like your work, but I also like you. Like you seem like a really nice person, very easy to talk to. And like in the bits that we've messaged on Instagram and stuff, like I feel like I would like to support you in that way, like buying your print, hanging it up or whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't have like a whole lot of YouTube followers or subscribers, but it's like, maybe something like this, I get you a few more followers. Like I am happy to do stuff like that because I enjoy your stuff. And I want you to keep doing it. Um, so I feel like that is also super important, and trying to find someone that's authentic in that way is kind of challenging because there's a lot of other people too, which kind of goes back to the earlier shit talking that I did a little bit where it's like it feels so fake. Like it just feels so superficial of I think this is what people will like. So I'm gonna kind of do this thing. And like that's fine. Like if that's your cup of tea, like that's fine to do that. But for me personally, I can't really get down with that. Like I just prefer authenticity, even if it's like something that I don't like or like aspects about a person that like, not my cup of tea. Like at least like I'm not gonna try and like fake being nice to people so that they like me more. If I don't like them, I'm just gonna be friendly, but like not, be best buds. So that's kind of like my qualm is a lot of people are trying to like be this thing that they aren't, and it just feels weird. I'm like, I don't know who I'm talking to right now.
Yeah.
So
It's definitely really difficult with that with photography because again, when money gets involved, you have to find the balance between doing things that people are going to like, but also, yeah, maintaining your integrity and being genuine.
mhm.
And so that's, yeah, that's one thing that I've had to do. And like I said earlier about wanting to shoot kind of more fine art stuff, it's like, well, I'm going to go out and shoot what I want to shoot while still keeping in mind, like, okay, I think that this is somewhat marketable.
Right, yeah,
And then hope that my audience will somehow find me. Like I'll have
yeah.
to, it's gonna take some work on my end, but you know, there's got to be some other people out there that have the same taste as I do.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, definitely, definitely. But yeah, no, I totally agree with that because it's just trying to find like anything, it's trying to find that balance of like what is it that's like easy for me to do, like feels good, it feels right. And then also like what can I do to sustain this way of life that I'd like to live?
Yeah.
So,
And even just to, fulfill the needs that are out there too. Like
oh yeah.
I um I don't even think I mentioned that like another reason why I got into black and white, and it's kind of in the same vein of just having a consistent body of work, but it's like, well, that's what I would hang on my wall. I love photography, but it's really, really difficult for me to um it's rare that I see a photo where I'm like, oh, I want that on my wall.
Hmm.
Because I think it has to do with the fact that like there are so many images where they're like so specific that unless you like really connect with like the specific thing that's in the image, it's kind of weird to like display in your home.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, if there's like a photo of some like landmark in Portland, like I might really like the photo, but I don't live in Portland and I'm not particularly like emotionally attached to Portland in any way. So it's like, why would I display this really great photo
Right.
like in my home where it's like your home is kind of like more or less an expression of your identity? And I don't know. So I really like minimalist stuff that's very
Hmm.
like it's as far as home decor goes. I love photos that are much more sophisticated than a lot of the minimalist stuff that I do. But as far as home decor goes, I like taking photos of things that aren't necessarily like the place isn't recognizable or you can't like it could be taken
Yeah.
anywhere so that people can genuinely just see it as like a beautiful thing that they might want to display instead of having to feel like an
Y-
emotional connection to the subject of the photo.
Yeah. And I think I get that from your work a lot because I think it also feels like it could have been taken at any point in time. And I think the black and white really adds like that timeless quality to it as well. Like it's just like it's a really nice thing to look at, and the form of the image is soothing in a way, and
Mhm.
it's enjoyable. And I agree with like when people have pictures of like New York or something in their house. I'm like, oh, have you
Yeah.
been to New York? And they're like, no. I'm like, oh,
Wow.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, hey, more power to you. Um, but yeah, I guess I kind of feel the same. I don't have much up on my walls, actually, nothing on my walls except for all of these slips from the post office when they just didn't deliver stuff to my door, which is super fun. But yeah, like if I was to put someone's photo work on, like I just think black and white looks so clean, and
Mhm.
it works in any setting. Whereas I feel like a really like a Cinestill 800T photo, like there's so much more pizzazz to it, you know? It's like it
It
kind of
has to fit your aesthetic. Like if you have like
yeah,
a really colorful home and everything, I can imagine, yeah, like if you had a really nicely like decorated home with like lots of colorful stuff in it and you
yeah,
put some color photos up on your wall, that would be great. But personally, like
I'm good.
I cannot commit to that much of an aesthetic choice.
No.
So black and white it is.
Yeah,
As
I
long
think
as you
that's
anything.
just the way to do it. I would definitely agree with that.
But I don't
Yeah.
feel like it's settling either. Like I genuinely just love the way black and white photos look.
No, I don't think so either. Cause like, okay, so couple things off of that. I got into photography because I wanted like the limitation of it. And film photography, I should say. I wanted like that limitation of like 12 shots per roll and stuff like that. Like I have to be very selective about these things. And I was hoping that would help me kind of train my eye to find things that I want to take photos of and whatnot, or like shots that I'd want to set up for like a film or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think black and white also introduces more limitations
Mhm.
in terms of like, again, you're refocused from what you're shooting because it's like, okay, cool, nice pretty sunset.
Yep.
Okay, like it's not going to look the same, which is kind of cool, and it kind of helps you explore the nuances of the light from the sunset or something of that matter, like how the light's falling on a certain subject. And as I find myself in a room full of cameras, I have like over 200 now. It's the best. Um, it's like I'm so void of these limitations now because like whatever I want to shoot film wise, like I can just pretty much pop into a camera and go out and shoot. So I'd really like to limit it myself to like having just a handful of cameras, and then shooting black and white too. I think would like reintroduce that feeling of significance behind each image and the purposeful nature of like taking that photo as opposed to just doing this all the time. I still will enjoy that because it's more inherently natural for me, but I think the more thoughtful process makes it feel more involved, and you feel like you're actually doing more work to create it, just like having an actual dark room to really print the stuff and to make it like you are doing every component of that. And I feel like that introduces so many new levels of connection to your work, and you're able to speak at it, like speak on it in a more like educated manner because it's like it's all you, you know,
Mhm.
like every single component of that work was produced by you. And I
Mhm.
think that's like a really special thing that you can't really get in a lot of areas. Like my 9 to 5 job is just like data entry and stuff, which is just so thrilling. But like most days, the system just breaks, like it just shuts down. So it doesn't matter. Like I could enter in all the correct dates, but sometimes it just won't upload them. And then it's still like my fault, even though I kind of did my part of the agreement, you know? So it's
Yeah.
just like it's a thing that you don't feel the same kind of fulfillment for.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can track the whole process from like walking out to go take the photo, develop it, print it, sell it to somebody else, they have it hanging in their home. It's like, I've done every part of this and now it's yours. Like that's pretty special. So
Yeah. And
that
that's why we shoot film, right? Like it just goes back to that thing of like a digital camera has just begun to really feel like a tool because there's so little that you are actually doing. Like
mhm,
there's so much that happens in the camera.
just this.
And yep. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like you're
No.
still creating beautiful, beautiful images with it. And I think that there's plenty of beautiful digital photography that I would love to hang in my home. If it's black and white. Um, but uh I I don't feel like I want to sell digital work because I don't feel like I created something.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's not the case for other people because I think that like part of the reason I feel that way is because of the fact that I'm so non-technical, where it's like there are other people out there who are doing very, very like technical shots with like really playing around with their exposure time and everything, where they're making something that is very unique that they genuinely did like craft an image. Since I don't shoot that way, I just don't get those kinds of results from digital photography where I'm not crafting images with my digital camera.
Mhm.
But I feel like I am doing that more with my film cameras. And so I feel like I am, making art instead of just taking pictures, because I think there is a difference. Not every photo that is taken is art.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of a lot about the intentionality, and I just don't have that kind of intentionality when I'm shooting digital most of the time.
Yeah.
Um, and so having that with film is what really brings a lot of fulfillment from it.
Yeah. I think, kind of speaking my language there, I think that's pretty much exactly my sentiments on all of it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would ever really, I don't even take digital photos though, to be honest, because every time I like go to take a digital photo, I'm like, I might as well just take a video. Like, this just be so much better if it was just a video.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's just personal preference. And then when people, I do like when people like take digital photos and make them look like film, because I think that's kind of, it's kind of
Yeah.
funny because I'm like, okay, great. This thing that I spent like $18 for a roll on and then like even more to develop it, you just kind of did for free. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
but it's never quite the same. Like you
No,
can
no.
always live with the satisfaction that like they can get pretty dang close, but it's not the same.
It's a totally different mindset too. Because again, you like have that limitation of like, well, I've only got 36 shots, I only have 12 shots, whatever. So yeah,
Yep.
I think we made the right call. Shoot film, burn all of your money the first chance you
Yes,
get. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I honestly have no regrets. So
Me either. I actually, no, that's a lie. I think I've got a couple, but that's just me.
I don't have any that are gonna stop me. Let's put it that way.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't think I do either. But anyway, I don't want to keep you because this has been what, like 2 hours thereabouts,
Oh yeah.
almost
Yep.
a hot minute. This was actually super enjoyable. So thank you so much for your time. And sorry,
Thank
I
you.
like totally spaced. I woke up this morning like,
No, that's okay. I could have, yeah, I needed the extra couple minutes anyways, because I was running around trying to find a spot. It's funny that I have this background behind me because I'm actually in a very beautiful room right now, and I didn't intend for the back. I came into here because I was like, oh, it's gonna look really nice in the background, and then
mhm.
I have this. But I
I love the natural scenery you have back there. It's great.
cute, yes, yeah. But no, my roommates are in the house. I'm actually in like a clubhouse of sorts for an organization I'm a part of, and I just stuck a paper on the door that says "Do not disturb."
Very
So,
nice.
yeah.
I'm just in my room with my blank walls. So one of these days I'll get like really good. I've got a couple interviews coming up with like very big photographers. Not to say you aren't. I do think your work is very big, but like, more notable people. And I keep thinking
Yeah.
like, I'll turn the corner. I'll be more professional, like wear a nicer shirt or something like, well, I don't know, do something with my hair. But then
Yeah.
I like it comes down to I'm just like, what up? Just like,
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I think it works. I don't, yeah.
yeah,
I
it's a
think
very low rent operation here. And I'm the only one who has to like edit all this, so it's fine anyways. But cool. Any like closing notes that you might have?
not that I can think of, but I just, yeah, thank you so much for reaching out. And like,
Oh
this
yeah,
has been really fun. I love nerding out about film, and
big fan.
yeah, so this has been good. I haven't gotten to do any like film stuff or film talk in a while. I don't have any friends here who shoot film. So this is good. I enjoy this.
Yeah, awesome. And I will stay in touch about getting down there because would like to actually check it out in a much less stressful situation.
Yeah, for sure. I'll look
Um,
for those spots to shoot at.
yeah, let me know. And also let me know what baked goods you like or what your roommates like too.
Those sourdough, did you say sourdough cinnamon buns?
Yeah, let me see if I
Sound
can.
fantastic.
I have pictures because I just baked some the other day.
Ooh,
And I think this is like my best looking batch too.
nice. Oh,
Cool. What's your favorite movie? Do you have a favorite movie?
I both love and hate being asked this question because my answer is very basic. I'm a Lord of
Perfect.
the Rings fan. I love Lord of the Rings so much. But
Yeah.
the
Big
but
fan.
the movie that's had like the one that I always go back to is the one that's had like the most emotional impact on me for whatever reason. I don't know. It's not like I don't even necessarily think it's not like some like cult favorite. I just really like the story of the book thief. And for some reason, when I watched that movie, I think I kind of related to one of the characters in it at the time. And this is not an exaggeration. I cried for 2 hours afterwards. I just sat on the couch sobbing for 2 solid hours. And it was a great experience. So
Did you read the
I
book
just,
too, or
mhm.
just
Yeah,
okay?
I read the book like way back in middle school
Same.
and I really enjoyed that too. So, but
I read it in middle school and I was like, it was a forced assignment kind of thing. So I was like skimming through it and I kind of like
mm,
skipped over the end when like everybody dies. So I was like, wait a minute, I had to like read back through and I was like, oh fuck. And I was like, oh no, this is terrible.
yeah,
I don't think I watched the movie though, but
it's I enjoyed it. I think that it's not necessarily yeah, like some cinematic masterpiece, but I just
no.
really like the story.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
how
and I
old
like
are
the
you
acting.
too? Because I think we're probably about the same age.
I'm 21.
Okay. So I'm
I'm
a
a
little
baby, I feel
younger
like.
than, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 24. I'll be 25 soon. It's
Oh,
just,
nice. Getting Hey, I feel like that's a good place to be. Like you're still like in your 20s, you're still
yeah,
young,
yeah.
but you're like
I'll be in my
moving
mid
up.
20s though. And that's like, I'm like, oh, early 20s, but not for long. And I'll be mid 20s. I got to start making sensible choices and
Yeah, but that's a good thing.
use my health insurance. Like, go to a
That
doctor.
I think you're in a good spot. Like it's like everyone's like, oh, your 30s are like your 20s with money. Well, it's like, well, your mid 20s are like working towards that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's true. We'll see if I keep up this film addiction. Probably not going to be getting any of that money for my 30s, but
I don't know, just start selling black and white photos and I'll buy them.
beautiful. Love to hear it. Cool. Well, thank you very much. Do appreciate it so
Me
much.
too.
And we'll talk soon, I imagine. So,
Sounds good.
adios.
See you later. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
You as well.